you wrote a book, Subsistence Agriculture. We've just talked about energy sourcing, regeneration, et cetera. So then let's maybe just set the stage for subsistence and regenerative agriculture, your book, talk about that. But then also we've kind of just glossed over, but now let's talk to the meat of what you do, is really turning that theory into practice. Is you run Rizoma Field School, which is, let's talk about the difference of the school, the foundation, but then I'm going to prime with some taglines that I think that really can hone in on people's remembrance of this. So like building a regenerative future. So again, like that requires agency to build something. It's not a renewable future, it's a regenerative future. And then also there is a future. We're not talking about the past and the present, stuff like that. So I love it. Again, more of the future is experimental learning for a resilient future. So again, like going into what we were just talking about, the real scientific method, the real Bayesian reasoning, real getting it out there, getting your hands dirty in the field with theory, that ultimate kind of marriage of science and humanity, et cetera. And then the thing that struck out at me is the time is now. That was very to what you're doing. So you can talk more about what the foundation is doing and what it's launched to, but it's really about sustainability, freedom, diversity, and health. Like you were saying, is that these systems, agriculture is not separate from energy, and it's not separate from humans, and it's not separate from society. So like, let's just kind of pull all those strands into one.
Yeah, sure. So regenerative agriculture, it's basically just a term. It's like a step beyond sustainable. Sustainable is let's just continue to sustain things as they are. Regenerative is how can we as humans live within ecosystems in ways that doesn't just sustain them and keep them how they are, but actually regenerates them, makes them better, healthier, stronger, more diverse, whatever. And there are historical precedents for this. And not just historical ones. There are people doing this that have been doing this that more or less just want to be left alone, but they have a lot to teach us. And a lot of knowledge is still held with a lot of people doing what I would define as regenerative agriculture. They probably wouldn't, and I think that's really important too, is to recognize that a lot of these terms are for disconnected people to try to make sense of the world, but
language, word salad.
And the people I'm talking about wouldn't use those terms, but it's just for me to try to translate like what I'm seeing and what I think are the important points to this audience of people who are looking for solutions and are disconnected from them. So for me, I think it was really important. I did my dissertation work talking to people who self-produce food in Chicago, and it was just so cool what these people were doing. For example, in a backyard in Chicago, this guy's got like ducks and turkeys and chickens and guinea fowl in the garage and a garden on every roof, and was trading eggs and having the ducks processed on a farm out of town, and going back and forth with manure and compost and vegetable boxes. And there was this one group in Chicago who took over this abandoned lot, and we're in the south side of Chicago near Calumet Harbor, which is this little lake, and they took in some people's boats that people were throwing out, and they took the boats and put it on the lot and filled the boats with soil. And so it's like repurposing things. And then the city of Chicago, a lot of people get Christmas trees processed from the city of Chicago and turned into wood chips. So there's like a whole system to get them processed. So this group, they have nothing. They don't want, the city of Chicago doesn't want the wood chips, which is just insane if you think about it, like how valuable that resource is. But anyways, they were like, any person who requests wood chips, they'll go drop them off. They dropped off on this abandoned lot like several truckloads of wood chips. This is a former Sherwin-Williams paint factory, this lot. And they put the wood chips down, and the people in the lot, they inoculated the wood chips with mushrooms, because you can remediate like toxins with mushrooms. And so you inoculate them, and then that turns it into soil through their natural composting process. And so they were like experimenting with this, testing what was in it, and then testing like what soil came out at the end, and seeing what heavy metals, if any, remained, and that kind of thing. so amazing. Like that's regenerative to me,
Right.
and that's just some people in the city. There's a bunch of people in rural areas who have like this sort of like hunting conservation ethic and fishing
Yep.
conservation ethic. And it's like, how can I hunt and fish and produce for myself in a way that's respectful of the ecosystem or make the ecosystem even better?
Yep.
And like, for example, deer populations are way out of control, out of balance because there's not predators. And so lowering deer populations is better for the ecosystem, but that if you're somebody who's conservation minded and knows the ecosystem. And so learning all that, I was like, wow, there's so many cool people out there who are just absolutely unrecognized for their like really wonderful ways of relating to ecosystems. A lot of times these people are demonized, like hunters are demonized.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think, wow, like if people really knew the ways in which you related to your ecosystem and what you thought about these things and what your goals were, the goals are regeneration. The same thing is true in Uruguay. And this is like, gets back to our principles versus practice thing. Like the people share the exact same principles. The agroecological farmers we work with, who are part of our community in Uruguay, the same kind of principles, like how can I produce food for my family, making the ecosystems that I work in better than they were before. And so that aha moment with the salmon scientists informed me wanting to take students on study abroad trips to like really work alongside these farmers and just get out there and see what they're doing. And so that's what the field school is. The field school, we've hosted student groups from Ohio State University, University of Idaho. We had a plan in place to host a student group along with a class from Washington State University, was my alma mater for my PhD. And they've loved it. I mean, it's been so rewarding. It's been so wonderful. Awesome. And it paused when the pandemic hit, and it hopefully will start again. But the students just absolutely eye-opening experience for everybody. And basically, they go and work alongside the people, the farmers. The farmers identify projects for them to work on. They have some conversations back and forth. Why do you do things this way? And the insights that the students get are less about the farming than they are about the social system. Like they see the neighbors come, the kids are around, everybody's lending a hand to one another. I mean, it's just part of this, network of people that only thrive by working together. And I love those insights. And then in the evening, I talk to them about sociology and say, like, why is this important? They ask me questions like, why are they doing things this way? And then I can help translate between the two worlds. I absolutely think that kind of model of education is essential. I think tons of people want to get onto farms. I think it should happen across the United States and across the world. There's tons of people who are getting into homeschooling now and taking their kids out of school. And like, I'm really interested in empowering farmers to build education programs into their model, because a lot of farmers are competing with like industrial agribusiness, and they could use supplemental income to teach the things that they're learning to students, because kids love this stuff, and even up to high school and college. And then the foundation is basically pulling together all of those insights and the work that I'm already doing to keep advancing these projects. So it's I'm trying to build these a curriculum that is just what I've learned from my time hosting students in Uruguay, that are hands-on experiences. Basically, how do you facilitate those experiences? What kinds of questions do you ask around them? What kinds of reflections, that kind of thing. And I'd like to do some sort of policy work to get that adopted as a sort of model for education. The Loconomy project is, I'm trying to get a software platform. I'm writing a grant now to get a software platform. And so I'm not really like a total Luddite, because I do think technology has a role in some things. And, people use the internet to find, for e-commerce. I was thinking it would be useful to have a technology platform for local producers. We'll start with food, but it can move on to other things. To upload their products and find customers and pick local distribution points and sort of strengthen local economies that way. So I'm writing.
And really do it from a totality, like a comprehensive way, right? That's been one of the things that people get, maybe this side, but they don't get the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you can search on Craigslist, or sometimes you can find somebody on Facebook Marketplace, but it's not like this whole marketplace that's specifically focused on a locality. This is about buying in, whatever the south suburbs of Chicago where I am now, for example. So it would be, really focused on localizing supply chains. And to me, I'm not a purist about this kind of thing. I think like, even if it came from New Hampshire to Chicago, it would be an improvement on Chile to China to,
Sure.
Chicago.
Right.
So I'm like, just, we're so far out of whack, like anything that goes in this direction. And I think that a lot of times environmental people are very purity politics. They'll be like,
absolutely.
oh, if this isn't the perfect solution, like, how do you define local? It's like, it literally doesn't matter. We're literally sending things tens of thousands of miles around the world. It's so stupid. Let's just go in the other direction and keep building systems in this that tend toward this direction, and hopefully we'll be better. It's like, I don't know. It's funny, the different worlds that I inhabit. So Rizoma Foundation is basically just trying to, from a nonprofit point of view, it's really important to me that it's nonprofit, to approach these different problems and not. For example, Loconomy, I could have tried to approach it as like a VC startup type thing.
Sure.
But then your incentive structures are crazy. Like you're
who you're hiring.
You owe your life to these people who gave you money, and they want their returns, and it's super high risk. And it makes your whole system built around maximizing profit for these investors. Whereas I believe if we build it as a nonprofit, pilot it as a sociologist, meaning asking people how they're actually using it and building a tool that's useful for actual people, as opposed to how can I squeeze the largest amount of money out of these people. But instead, how do I build, if my principle is how do I build a tool that advances local economies and helps people, access local food or sell local food, then I could maybe transform it into some sort of cooperative whose incentive structure is then to help the people who are the actual users and to put money back into the community. But I think those incentive structures really matter for the way these different institutions are built. And when I learned how VC funding works, which I literally just learned these past months, like talking to people on my team who are into tech, I was like, this is sociopathic. I can't believe how this works. Like, I can't believe that this is like the assumption of how you fund things and how it has to grow and all this stuff. So shout out to PJ Connolly, because he's really helped me to parse the different options that are out there and come to this conclusion that this is the right way to approach it.